Okay everybody, this is my first time posting on here, and this is pretty much my first time trying to green text, so bear with me. I have several stories you all might appreciate, but this one seems as good as any to start with. This happened about 2 years ago now, and it's kind of a long story, but here goes. Be me. From buttfuck nowhere small town in US. Grew up on family farm shooting guns and hunting. Love guns but not really a commando. Be okay at hunting. Fucking love outdoors and being in a woods. Get in shape at college. Finally not a lard ass, yay. Decide to start applying for OOS tags in a few states out west now that I can manage the exertion. Want to do more than sit in a deer stand or hunt coyotes from behind a hay bale. Apply for antelope, mule deer, elk, and mountain goat. Get lucky as fuck and get a mountain goat tag in Idaho after just 2 years applying. Best friend from college is working in Idaho for some big mining company, we'll call him Jonathan/John. Call John up and he has an unused elk tag. Bro trip incoming. Can't get away from work until last week of October. Fuck, it's gonna be fucking cold. Oh well. JPG. Decide to start checking local weather a week or so before leaving. In case any sudden changes or storms. End up watching local news from central Idaho. Headline catches my eye. 2 hunters missing from area near Hell's Canyon. Wait a minute, we're 2 hunters going to near Hell's Canyon. Forget about it by the time the big day finally arrives. Meet Jonathan in little town called Slate Creek on the edge of the public game land we were going to be hunting. Eat supper at little diner in town. John is telling me about his new .270 Winchester. Look over at TV on wall of diner, tuned to local news station. Headline says missing hunters found slain near Hell's Canyon, mountain lion attack suspected. Oh, cool. Mountain lions are mean motherfuckers, don't get me wrong, but it's actually pretty rare for them to attack people traveling in groups. Mountain lion attacks in general are rarer than you might think. Besides, hunters would have definitely had rifles, probably pistols, and skinning knives too. Any mountain lion that can maul 2 armed adults to death simultaneously is not one I want to meet. Luckily, Jonathan and I had planned ahead. He has his 10mm automatic. I'm lugging my .44 Magnum. Probably fine. Decide to get up early next day and stop at local outfitter. Get some hard cast bullets and perimeter bells for the campsite. Ask older guy behind counter if he's ever seen anything like that cougar attack on the news. Not since back in '98. Nigger what? Wave. Tells us a long story about a string of livestock maulings back in the late '90s. Cows, chickens, dogs, deer, elk, you name it, all found heavily mutilated. Local rangers and sheriff blamed mountain lions. Local hunters killed 3 big-ass mountain lions in a few days. Livestock and animals still dropping like flies. Old guy who lived in a wood says he saw enormous black cat near his cabin. Pelt black as sin. Nobody believes him, duh. Next day, newest forest ranger goes missing. He was from People's Republic of California though, so who cares? Don't find anything of him except for a streak of blood on the ground and his fucking shoes. Rangers get weapons and head out into wilderness. Won't let locals come along. Everyone comes back that evening acting differently, won't talk about what happened out there. Livestock mutilations stop though, all quiet on the Western Front. Bro and I are kind of spooked, but then we realize the story is completely ridiculous. Old geezer is probably just trying to fuck with us because we're from out of town. Haha, very funny. Pay for our shit and leave. Head to the ranger station to check in. Only one ranger on duty. Checks our guns and asks where we're going to be making camp. Tell him and ask if there's anything we should be aware of. Ranger frowns, zips my .3006 back into its case. Looks me right in the eyes. Needlessly creepy. JPG. Guess you boys heard about that cougar attack near Hell's Canyon. To tell you the truth, there are lots of places out there in the hills where something could hide, but don't worry, we have some of our best people out there working to keep you and everybody else safe. Don't feel really reassured. Ranger thinks for a second. I'm really not supposed to do this, but if you boys have a notepad, I'll write down our radio frequency. If you find anything unusual, just call it in and we'll be out there ASAP, okay? Weird. Rangers and game wardens never give out frequencies, but with a little work you can find them. Their radios aren't encoded like military ones. If somebody knows their frequency, they can just listen in, but FCC gets mad if you talk on the same frequency. Write it down, since John brought his handheld radio anyway, so what the hell. Whatever, finally time to actually get out in the woods. Drive for about 2 hours up into the mountains. Roads turn to gravel very soon after leaving town. Then turn to dirt a little after that. Being out in wilderness and forget about all the weird shit. Find a good place to pull off dirt roads and go further into mountains on foot with huge ass packs and supplies. Hike for about 20 more minutes before finding a good clearing to camp in. Pitch tents and set up other shit. Actually remember to put up perimeter bells around clearing. Spend next 2 days scouting. Don't see any other hunters the whole time. Awesome, we are away from anybody that might spook the game. Fuck, it's cold. But doesn't matter because I've wanted to hunt mountain goat forever. Small snowstorm supposed to be blowing through sometime in next few days. Occasionally friends' radio crackles and we stop what we're doing to listen. Usually just some ranger checking in and giving his location or whatever. Occasionally though, it's a ranger calling in finding a mauled animal. Mutilated elk and mule deer showing up a couple times per day. Jonathan has the bright idea of marking locations of mutilated animals on map. Rangers were calling in locations. The map dots make a more or less straight line. Moving towards us. Feel uneasy, but we have guns so we're probably good, right? Take extra precautions to secure cooler and anything that might attract predators. Scout again third day and find perfect ridge that overlooks another ridge where goats bed down. Too late in day to really hunt though. Head back to camp and made dinner. Sausages and eggs over campfire, fuck yeah. Taking forever because cold and windy. Suddenly bro and I both notice there is the sound of something moving in the woods. Fuck, probably the boogeyman. Grab my .44 and 1 trillion candle power flashlight and walk towards edge of clearing. Sounds of twigs snapping, leaves rustling. Noises getting closer. Starting to freak out a little. Can hear sounds of breathing now. Fuck, this is how I die. Sounds of movement stop. Suddenly hear voice from direction of sound. Hello? Is somebody over there? Breathe massive sigh of relief. Call out and say there is a clearing over here. Keep my gun drawn anyway. After a few seconds 2 hunters stumble out of woods. Look like they've been through the ringer. Yell at them and demand to know what the fuck they are doing out in the middle of the night lurking without flashlights or headlamps. Jonathan is friendlier, asks them to come sit around our fire. Tells me to calm down. Adrenaline is starting to wear off, realize he's right and I'm being kind of a dick. The other hunters look at each other nervously. Tell us that they shot a bull elk earlier in the afternoon. Made a shot from the top of one ridge to another. Elk was hit but ran off into brush. They had to basically climb down the side of one mountain and up the side of another to even find the blood trail. Took them longer than they thought to make that hike. About 50 minutes. Said they followed the blood trail for another 45 minutes or so. Come to small clearing. See elk laying in middle of clearing. As they get closer though they realize the elk is fucking shredded. Entrails pulled out and mostly eaten. Random bones thrown around. Legs torn off. Meat is still hanging on lots of the bones though. Whatever did this did it for the pleasure. Big paw prints around the carcass in the mud and blood. Couldn't tell what kind of prints, but said they looked feline. Cats keep their claws retracted as they walk. Hunters are freaked out, duh. Realize it's getting dark. Left their lamps with some of their other stuff. Try to make it back to their campsite but end up getting lost. Stumble through brush, get lost, and eventually end up at our clearing. Well, fuck me, that's a story. Throw some extra eggs and sausages on the griddle. These guys have seen some shit. Offer to let them stay at our campsite tonight since we had 2 tents anyway. Sit around fire talking for a little bit to lighten the mood. One of the other hunters suddenly says, "You know, I'm really glad we stumbled into you too. Because I kept feeling like we were being watched or followed out there." His buddy nods and agrees with him. Me, while you were in the clearing with the elk. Dude, no, while we were in the woods. Oh, great. Temperature is dropping fast, and a light snow starts to fall. Guess that cold front, snowstorm is here. It's been a long day and all of us are super tired, so we douse the fire and turn in for the night. John moves his sleeping bag into my tent, lets the other dudes use his tent. You better not fart all night. MP3. Hiked all day, so fall asleep really quickly. Wake up in the middle of the night. I'm a light sleeper, so I figured my friend probably just rolled over in his sleep or some shit and woke me up. Hear sound outside. What? Soft jingly sound, about 20 yards away. It's the little perimeter bells. Probably no big deal. Maybe one of the other guys needed to take a leak and hit the bells on the way out. Hear bells again, louder this time. Sound coming from about the same place, not getting closer or further away. Sounds like something is smacking the fishing line that the bells are strung on pretty hard. Every few seconds the line thrums and the bells jingle. Getting kind of freaked out. Reach down beside me to get .44 and sit up in my sleeping bag. Guess I rustled the sleeping bag when I moved, because the sounds outside stop. Sit there stone still for a few minutes listening. No sound except for the soft crinkle of falling snow. Have to be up early the next day to get into position, so go back to sleep. Alarm goes off at holy fuck early o'clock. Bro and I get up and get moving in the dark. Brew pot of coffee over camp stove. Super fucking cold out, but really peaceful. No sound at all. Fresh coat of snow on the ground. But not super deep. Notice something in the snow and go to investigate. It's a fucking set of paw prints. Huge ass paw prints. I've seen lots of mountain lion tracks before, and this was almost double the size of even the biggest set of cougar tracks I had ever seen. Follow tracks to edge of clearing. Paw prints came into the clearing from almost exactly the same spot where the 2 hunters had come out of the woods the night before. Came through the clearing to the other tent. Circled that tent. Went to the far side of the clearing and ended about 5 feet from the line of bells there. Picked up again about 20 feet into the woods. Whatever it was jumped to avoid the perimeter bells on the way out. Between the tracks and the story about the mutilated elk from yesterday, I figure this qualifies as weird enough to call in over the radio. Call it in on frequency old ranger gave us. Guy on other end sounds sleepy. Reprimands us for using government frequency or some shit. Tell him about the elk and the tracks. Suddenly he sounds concerned and demands to know where we are. We tell him and he says a few rangers will be out to our location in about 2 to 3 hours. Can't wait that long if we want to be in position for a good shot on billy goats when they bed down. Decide to just leave a note on the inside flap of the other tent. Figure the other 2 will be able to answer any questions. Bro and I eat a quick handful of trail mix and jerky with our coffee and head out for the spot we found yesterday. Morning is cold as fuck, and the snow on the ground makes it hard to see the trail we followed the day before. It's still dark too, but as we hike the sky is getting lighter. We finally make it to the base of the hill/ridge that we are going to shoot from, but it's still a little bit of a hike to the top. Decide to stop for a minute at the base to rest and have some more trail mix. As we are standing there, we both kind of get that feeling of being watched. But we can't really explain it. Keep catching glimpses of something moving at the edge of my vision. Can't see anything clearly though. Almost like the shadows in the tree line are moving. Notice the sky is getting lighter, time to go ahead and get in position. Start climbing the last hill as the sky turns from gray to purple and then to blue. Bro points out how quiet the forest is. Didn't notice it on the way over because no shit, everything is going to be quiet at 5 a.m. the morning after a snowstorm. But now that the sun is up, there should at least be some kind of sound. Even in winter the elk bugle in the mornings, and October isn't late enough in the year for other animals to be in hibernation. Still early, so maybe that's it? Still have that feeling of being watched. Still catching glimpses of movement behind me every now and again. Cycle rifles bolt so I have one in the chamber. Finally get to top of ridge. Okay, view is pretty good. Trees in valley below look like glass. Covered in frost and shining in the morning sun. Mountains look like something out of a Bob Ross painting. Set up my pack to use as a rest for my rifle while my friend gets his binoculars out of his pack. Sit there for a few minutes watching the ridge below us. Suddenly get a very strong feeling of being watched. Hair stands on end. Overwhelming feeling of dread. Look behind me and don't see anything. Look to my left and almost shit myself. About 30 yards up the ridge from us there is a gigantic pitch black silhouette perched like a gargoyle on a big rocky outcropping. Basic shape of a big cat, like a tiger or mountain lion. Pelt is so dark I can't really see any distinctive features about its shape. Black as sin. Ears are standing straight up on top of its head and have big tufts of fur at the end of them like a bobcat or lynx. Two piercing amber-colored eyes staring right back at me. Bigger than any mountain lion I have ever seen. Kick my buddy and don't say anything. He looks up and sees the thing too. Oh shit. Jeff. My 44 is on my hip, but I'm not in a good position to reach down, draw it, aim, and fire quickly if this thing decides to pounce on us. Remember the 20-foot jump over the perimeter bells and get even less confident. Need to use my rifle instead. Whisper plan to bro. Black cat still just looking at us, hasn't blinked or moved a muscle this entire time. Hear friend pull 10mm out of its holster, but he's in a bad position too. And we don't want to make any sudden movements and piss this thing off or trigger predatory reflexes or whatever. Flip rifle safety off. In the cold silence the little click seems deafeningly loud. Monster cat's ears perk up, and it starts to slink down off of its perch. Oh fucking shit. Decide it's now or never. Roll onto my side and bring my rifle up. Make fucking eye contact with the thing through the scope. Blam. Can't see anything but a blur of movement and expect to feel fangs in my throat any second now. Friend is shooting with his 10mm and my ears are fucking ringing. Finally realize I'm not dead and come to my senses. Cycle rifles bolt and try to bring it up for a second shot. See the jet black shape running full speed down the hill behind us and shoot after it. Thing disappears into the woods. Hold breath for what seems like an hour. Come down off the adrenaline high. Sun is fully up now at least. A few birds singing. Sound has returned. Jonathan and I stay still and watch the tree line for a long time, but the thing doesn't ever come back. He tells me he was pretty sure I hit it right in the chest. Check all around the area where it charged at us. Find several tufts of oily, jet black fur, but no blood at all. Eventually we realize we have to head back towards the campsite, can't just sit here and wait until dark because fuck being out here alone with that thing once night falls. Make double sure both of our handguns are loaded and head back into the woods. Now that there's daylight it's easier to follow the trail. Jump at every little sound. But don't have that feeling of being watched anymore. Don't have much faith in that sixth sense shit though. Get about 2/3 back towards the campsite when we hear heavy movement in the brush up ahead. Stay very still while tactically shitting ourselves. Then we hear voices and realize it's 2 people. We walk around the next bend in the trail and run into 2 rangers. They're armed to the teeth. One is carrying an AR-15 with all the goodies. Other is carrying a Remington 870. Both are wearing bulletproof vests and plate carriers over their uniforms. And they both have extra shells/magazines practically dripping off of them. Where's the party.jpg? They ask us who we are and if we're the ones camped out up ahead. We tell them yes, and they both breathe a sigh of relief. They explain they were out looking for us and heard all of our gunshots. Ask us what the fuck was going on out there. John and I look at each other and start to explain the story in pieces as we continue hiking with the rangers back towards the clearing and campsite. Eventually we just say fuck it and tell them the whole thing. Explain the whole thing. Rangers look at each other and then back to us before saying, wow, you boys sure are lucky to have survived a mountain lion attack like that. We ask them if they were even listening to us. What the hell kind of mountain lion do you think that was? I've seen mountain lions, I've hunted mountain lions, and I've been hunted, stalked by mountain lions. This was not a fucking mountain lion. The 2 rangers look at each other and look back at us with a kind of sad or pitying look, sympathy even. Like they wish they could say something else but have to stick to a script. By now we're almost back to the campsite, so we just decide to make the rest of the hike in silence. Finally get back to the campsite and the whole fucking clearing is crawling with people. Rangers, guys in tactical gear like the 2 that we met on the trail, police, the works. In the woods to the left and right I can see the flashes of cameras. Our tents have been neatly packed up and piled together with all of our other stuff in a little pile. The other 2 hunters from the night before are nowhere to be seen. Sit there for a few seconds with jaws on the floor. Walk the dinosaur. Super tall and clean-cut ranger in crisp and well-fitted uniform comes over. Who invited Ken, and where's Barbie? I hear you 2 had a close call with a cougar? You sure are lucky to have made it through without even a scratch. We went ahead and packed up your tents, hope you boys don't mind. With everything going on here right now I think it would be best if you 2 leave the area. We agree. Fuck staying here with the man-eating panther or whatever it was. Ask him where we should move our campsite to so we can continue our hunt. Suddenly the ranger looks like somebody pissed in his cornflakes. L asked you boys to leave. Now, are you going to leave, or is somebody going to have to compel you? John and I look at each other in disbelief. WTF.jpg. After a couple of seconds I just throw my hands up and say whatever you say, chief. Grab one of the tents and a few other things and start down the trail, fuck it. When John and I get to the truck, there are about 20 other vehicles on both sides of the tiny dirt road. Forest Service, local police, highway patrol, a couple of unmarked SUVs. It's a regular block party. Pack up the truck as fast as we can and get the fuck out of there before the men in black show up to kill us or something like that. We make the whole trip back to town in silence. Make it back just before dark and stay in the same crappy motel for the night. Do nothing but make small talk, trying not to address the fucking elephant in the room. John packs up the next morning and drives back to his home on the other side of the state. I stay at the motel for 3 more days because that's way cheaper than rescheduling my flight home last minute. Go back to the local diner one night. Same local news station on the TV. See an interview with the super tall ranger that told us to leave, but there's no sound so I don't know what he was saying. The headline at the bottom of the screen says local rangers trap cougar responsible for deadly attacks. Next there was a picture of rangers with the corpse of a small-ass mountain lion, definitely not the thing we saw that day. Leave a few days later and finally head home. Go back to working and try to forget about the whole thing. Don't ever speak about it with John. A few months after I get back, an envelope shows up in the mail with no return address and an Oregon postmark. Open it up and there's a set of Idaho hunting tags for next year inside, all stamped with my name. Everything's there. Moose, elk, mule deer, black bear, even mountain goat. There's nothing else inside the envelope, and I didn't apply for any tags. Not sure what it was supposed to mean, but I can tell you for damn sure I'm not about to head back out there again.